Anyway, hey everybody, so it's been a while since my last video, and I can't remember what I talked about, but I'll think about it later. Anyway, the reason I'm here now is because I have a book review. I haven't done one in a while, but I really have so much to say about this book, and there has been a lot said about this book, and I just kind of want to give you my own thoughts. Some quick housekeeping though. So you probably can't tell now, but I am recovering from a cold, and because of the cold, I am like 3 weeks behind on my March TBR, which is a little bit frightening, but somehow it's like I'm psychic or something. I didn't schedule anything to read for the last week in March, so thank goodness I will probably be able to catch up at that point. But right now I'm just moving on to the next book. Anyway, next book that I'm reading is Firebird by Mercedes Lackey, but the book that I want to talk about right now is The Magicians by Lev Grossman. I just have so much to say. I think, first synopsis. The Magicians is about a 17-year-old named Quentin Coldwater, and I love the opening line of this book. I'm just going to read it to you real fast because it's so awesome. Quentin did a magic trick. Nobody noticed. I love that, and that's kind of like the whole tone of the movie. This played out like a movie in my head. It's kind of the whole tone of the book. Basically, the book opens with Quentin walking with his friends James and Julia to a Princeton interview, and you get to know a lot about Quentin in this walk that he goes on. You learn that he's in love with Julia, and he always has been, but Julia isn't really interested in him like that because Quentin, for some reason, can't grow up when it comes to this fandom, this children's series called Filroy. It's about a land called Filroy, and he's just one of those people that it haunted him, this series of books. So he and James and Julia are like the super crazy smart kids of the super crazy smart kids, and through a series of events, Quentin runs into this woman who gives him an envelope that has the 6th Filroy novel. There were only 5 that were written by Pilroy, I think was the author's name, and so he's walking around trying to read this story when he finds himself at this college, for lack of a better word, called Brakebills, which is a magical university, literally. So a lot of people have been comparing or mentioning Harry Potter in conjunction with the Magicians, and I would have to say that really the only similarities would be the going away to a magical school. That's pretty much it. Other than that, and I don't think that in future generations you're going to be able to have a magical school as a character or as a setting without somebody bringing up Harry Potter. I mean, we are in a post-Potter world, and that's just going to be a thing. But The Magicians is much darker than Harry Potter. It's about teenagers, like really smart teenagers, and they're not happy, and they don't know how to be happy, and they don't know why they're unhappy, but they're not satisfied, and Quentin is the least satisfied of them all. He gets to Brakebills and he thinks everything's going to be wonderful, and there's kind of a menacing air to this place. And then, so he's not happy at Brakebills. He makes a group of friends, and there's always something slightly off. Like, he'll have moments of happiness, but they won't last. He graduates from Brakebills, and he thinks that everything he thinks that he's gotten everything. And then more stuff happens, and none of it turns out the way he thought it was going to be. So I think that this book is really, a lot of it is about growing up, and about sometimes when you realize a dream, it's nothing like you thought it was going to be, that it's not really the dream that you thought. It's not satisfying in the least. I thought that The Magicians was really poignant. It was really hard to read at some points because it's kind of depressing. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's very depressing at some points because you're like, why can't you just be happy, Quentin? I mean, why? But I think that that's the point. There's a really great... okay, found it. So, at the point, it's Quentin's 5th year at Brakebills, and he and his other 5th-year students have had this graduation banquet, and they've gone with the headmaster down to this cellar where he's going to put like a protection charm on them. And Fogg is the headmaster, and he starts this speech. And Fogg is always kind of a slightly sinister character. You get the feeling he seems kind of jovial and, you know, a father figure, but really it's like not so much. There's a little bit of a sinister tone to him. And he starts this speech, and he just goes on about how, like, sometimes I wonder if man was really meant to discover magic. Words and thoughts don't change anything. Language and reality are kept strictly apart. Reality is tough and yielding stuff, and it doesn't care what you think or feel or say about it, or it shouldn't. You deal with it and you get on with your life. Little children don't know that. Magical thinking, that's what Freud called it. Once we learn otherwise, we cease to be children. And then he goes on, can a man who can cast a spell ever really grow up? I think you're magicians because you're unhappy. A magician is strong because he hurts more than others. His wound is his strength. So nobody at the school is really happy. I mean, that's kind of what Fogg is saying. And Fogg himself isn't happy. And it's just, it's a novel about a bunch of unhappy magicians, and to a certain extent about the trouble that having power leads to, and about finding out what you really want, and it's a really good book, and I definitely recommend that you read it. I have heard people mention Draco Malfoy. Just divorce Harry Potter for a second when you read this book, because it's nothing like Harry Potter. It is nothing like Harry Potter. There is no clear line between good and evil. There is no clear line between reality and fantasy. It's so good, and I really think you should read it before you're like, psh, you know, people say it's horrible. I mean, you really need to read it because it is extremely well written. I haven't highlighted so much in a fiction work in a really long time. So definitely recommends The Magicians by Lev Grossman. I cannot wait until next year when I can read The Magician King. I think that there's supposed to be a new narrator, based on a review that I read, a synopsis that I read, and based on what happened at the end. So I'm so excited. I hope you guys will read The Magicians so that we can talk some more about it, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye!